welcome back to the beginning of a new and wonderful week, or I could say the end of a wild and crazy week here in Abbas, France. The weather was insane for us. I do live in basically zone like 9, I think, is kind of the equivalent in the United States, um, which is generally pretty temperate. But I think this week we had crazy, crazy weather. Um, Beginning of the week, it went to -7 C, several consecutive nights below freezing, which is not common for our area. And then kind of mid to end of the week, it got to be like really rainy, super incredibly windy, much windier than it normally is. And then today it's fine. Like today, I kind of feel like I'm back in California. So we kind of had a little bit of everything all crammed into one week. And because of that, I didn't do a lot of things out in the garden. I definitely deferred the pruning and the planting because the weather was just not conducive to doing things like that. But I did finally get around to finishing my 2026 plan. And with that came ordering a bunch of seeds and plants and bulbs and all that good stuff. So, a little bit of like shopping therapy never hurt anybody. But with all that being said, let's get into it and I'll walk you around and show you what happens. Okay, so out in the garden, you can see that things are looking okay. They're not too bad. All of the things that I expected to completely bite the dust, like the nasturtiums over there, and I have some nasturtiums over here, and the physalis, and there's physalis by the house. Those are all completely toast. I did completely lose my arch. I think I've been mentioning that it's sort of been on its last legs, and those last legs are now gone. So this is kind of like the secret garden entrance at this point. Because yeah, if I come through and turn around, this is supposed to be up there, and this was kind of like my makeshift thing. So this arch has completely bit the dust and definitely needs to be replaced. I don't think it can be repaired at this point. My strawberry patch definitely got frozen over, which may be a good thing because in here I was stupid and I planted wild strawberries, which I subsequently figured out are completely like aggressive and somewhat invasive. So I need to remove those and recover my strawberries from before. But that'll happen eventually. Um, the orchard survived. I'd walk you all the way down to the end there, but maybe I'll just zoom in. Uh, those last holdouts of apples that I was waiting for the leaves to fall, pretty sure their leaves will have fallen by now. So I will be able to eventually start pruning those. If I actually step over here and zoom down there again, because I'm losing my light and I don't want to walk, you can see sort of the chaos of the wind. Originally, I had put my little greenhouse thing on those tables, and I've since figured out that the wind that comes through this area is just insane. So before I had actually installed like a storage thing here, which basically got completely destroyed in winds. And I thought it was sort of a one-off, but seeing the tables completely turned over, I think the wind along this western front is just way too strong for anything to really go there. I will show off my passion fruits though. I was a little surprised. They seemed to have survived the freeze. It was definitely a freeze. They survived the freeze pretty well in their little jacket. And I did prioritize getting kind of this like umbrella type stuff. It's not great. It's pretty thin, but it's basically a plastic thing that I've put onto their space to help prevent the wind and the rain, because basically what was happening is that all the wind and rain was coming in from this western side, and it was actually going in through this door here and into their roost house, which is not good. So that ended up being a priority, similar to me putting in their little their little baby bath under their space. That was sort of a priority a few weeks ago, to give them a dry area. The other priority was kind of reinforcing their coop to keep it free from wind and rain. And I am still working on getting this feeder to work. Like I mentioned last week, it kind of stays in the up position. So I think I need to like oil it or something. But at least now with the protection, hopefully that will also protect the food. I did want to come in and talk a little bit about the plans for this year, since I mentioned having a plan. I won't show all the details, but I'll show some of it. But in the orchard, I'm planning on actually planting a bunch of daffodils around each of the trees, because apparently the root of daffodils emits something that voles hate. And we have a ton of voles in here, and apparently voles really like young roots. And that tree way down there is the newest addition. So the daffodils are going to be coming over here. I have some muscari plants on the other side of the thing around there that are going to be relocated into the orchard here. And I'm going to be planting artichokes. We don't eat a lot of artichokes, but I read that artichokes actually have like a giant taproot, and our dirt is quite clayy. So I'm going to be planting some artichokes in between these trees. And I always thought artichokes kind of lived forever. They were like perennials, but apparently they only really live for like 3 to 5 years, and then they start getting like not so great and you replace them. But that'll give enough time for the trees to fill out some more, and having artichokes in between them will help kind of drill the ground. And my idea is that they're going to help with drainage. So over this year, I'll be planting flowers, planting artichokes, and we'll kind of see what happens. Up in this area, okay, these are all plans subject to change depending on my mood and my motivation, but I would like to clear out this little patch and potentially grow like some sort of hedge type thing. Originally, I was thinking blueberries, but they need acidic soil, and with the clay, I just don't have acidic soil. But we'll see what happens with that. I have big plans for the flower area. I have completely fell in love with peonies, and apparently they need a ton of space. So I bought some peonies. I've ordered some peonies, and I'm going to put peonies basically along here. And unfortunately, over there, I have what I think is an elderberry regrowing. And apparently elderberries have incredibly aggressive root systems. And I'm supposed to plant the peonies like quite a ways away from the elderberry. But I'm going to see what I can do there. But ultimately, it means that I need to kind of prioritize finishing this flower area, because I kind of got halfway through it and burnt out. So the other half hasn't been done. So with the order of the peonies, I'm hoping that that really invigorates me to get that done. If we go through this crazy entrance again, in the garden, my plan is this bed is going to be for like fruits. So, or the ratatouille bed. It's going to have the tomatoes, peppers, aubergines. This is still garlic, and I'm going to be planting legumes down there, so like beans and stuff. This is already planted with shallots, and my zucchini is going to go in the open space over there. And then this bed is almost ready. We're harvesting most of these leeks, and the rest of them are like weeds or the physalis that needs to go. And my walking onions are going to get moved somewhere else. And then this bed will become brassicas. So the cabbages, kales, broccolis, things of that nature will all end up going in here. This is shallots for right now. And that bed, I think there's endives here, but the back side is going to end up being cucumbers. So I'm going to build something for the cucumbers to go on. And then over here, we have more garlic, and that bed over there that has the dying nasturtiums are going to be the salad row. So I'm going to have kind of like a consistent succession grown salad bar happening over there. And then let me walk you out to Squash Island, and I'll show you what's happening over there. Okay, so in this space, there's actually quite a lot that's going to end up happening this year. Unfortunately, one of those things is that this tree needs to be taken out. We had we had a tree person come because I've been concerned. A bunch of the branches have been dying, and basically every time we get a windstorm, they break off and potentially go and damage cars in the driveway. I think last year or the year before, we actually had a wasp hive in the trunk there. And the guy who came out to look at it basically said that it's dying. It's got something seriously wrong with its trunk. So it's on a slow decline, and we're just going to remove it because it's too much of a risk. Thankfully, it did send a baby. So this one here is another tree of the same type that I'm hoping to keep. We are also having somebody come out to trim the hedge because it hasn't been done in however long. So that's all potentially happening this spring. This was last year's squash island. So I planted in here, and then it got to like kind of sprawl wherever it wanted. This next year, I'm a little excited because I'm basically ordering another one of these things. So in the States, y'all make those like cattle panel arches to grow your squashes on. Some people do. And here, cattle panels are just not a thing. So I've decided I'm going to be ordering basically a hoop house, which is a thing out here, or a greenhouse. It's actually going to be a greenhouse. But instead of using it as a greenhouse, I'm going to put wire on it and then let the squash that are growing in this space basically grow up and over the wire. And with this tree going away, I'm hoping that there's actually going to be a lot more sun exposure in this area than there was last year. So that's the plan. We'll have to see if that actually happens. Thankfully, I have to like May to plant the squash. But yeah, I mean, basically imagine a greenhouse type structure that kind of looks like this, and it's going to be a similar size. And it's basically going to be mirrored over here with the entrance being this way. I mean, there won't really be an entrance because it's not going to be covered with the greenhouse like plastic fabric stuff. It's just, I'm literally just buying it for the frame itself. And then I'll get some, we call it grillage, but it's basically like a thick wire, welded wire thing. And I'll put that over it. And then the things here, I'll just kind of guide to grow over there. And then we could still walk to the compost area. So that's an idea for that. And then if I loop around over here, this whole area that I did dig out a little while ago, because I was trying to increase the drainage just outside the chicken pen, this is actually going to end up having a bunch of different containers for roots. So the potatoes, the carrots, the parsnips, things of that nature are all going to grow along here, is the idea. So I may have bitten off more than I can chew this year, but I am cautiously optimistic, and we shall see what happens. And then along the driveway, I'm still working on this planting area here, but I have decided what I'll be doing is I will be planting mashua, which is like a tuberous nasturtium flower, all along, well, I mean, not all along because the tubers are really expensive, but I mean, I'll basically be putting them along the wall so that they can grow up and then onto this platform here. And then in front, I'm going to put oca, which is another tuber that produces like kind of little like clover type petals. Those are going to go in the front. And I think I might also put Chinese artichokes down in this space, which is sort of in the mint family, and I have a bunch of those. So in here, like I say, oak in the front, Chinese artichokes along, and then mashu in the back, and it should look pretty, I think. So I've decided, I think before I mentioned that over there was my potting area, and since then I actually realized that all the electricity comes from over there. There's like one outlet that comes, so I've moved my potting area here, and we have this extension cord with plugs. So now the plugs go to this washing machine, which is for the animals, and my potting area, and my little like wasabi thing, which you can't really see because it's too dark, but I have a light here. So now I can actually turn on my work light, And that way, when it's too dark, I can still get out here and do some work. You can kind of see the wasabi thing is growing down there, but this space still needs some cleanup, obviously. And then that will probably end up being a staging area for seedlings. And I did get a shelving unit that's going to go there. And then this is going to be kind of my makeshift greenhouse, because I think I mentioned several weeks ago, my husband applied to build me a greenhouse and it was rejected, but it is what it is. So yeah, here's the end of the orchard. You can see that like this apple tree is definitely on the way to losing all of its leaves. This one I'm still working on, but I'll probably just shake it and they might fall off. And this was the disaster of the wind. Thankfully, it didn't break the windows that I've been saving for. I was thinking about making like a cold frame type thing with those things, but we'll see what happens. Ultimately, that is probably it for this week because I'm already losing my sunlight, but I will leave you with the at least soon to be sunset. I hope you had a good one, and I'll see you next week. Bye.